How long does it take to evict someone? Is this something that can be done in a few short weeks, or is it a long, drawn-out process? Let's go. Nobody likes to evict someone. It's an undesirable process for anybody. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how long it takes to evict somebody and what you need to know to do the process really well so you can cut the time in half. But stick around to the end because I'm going to give you a tip at the end that will exponentially shorten the amount of time it takes to evict somebody so you're not paying money over and over again to keep a tenant in there that isn't paying rent. Let's get started. Just as a disclaimer, we're shooting this video in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and currently there's an eviction moratorium on all units throughout the country, meaning you're not allowed to evict somebody for non-payment of rent. And while yes, this is creating a lot of stress on landlords and a lot of stress on property owners, especially property owners that own 10 units and under, it's something that we're all working through together, and we're seeking to find ways to help tenants so that they can continue to pay even if they've lost a job. Because while the eviction moratorium is in place, there's been extra assistance added for tenants that can't pay rent. So it isn't as if we can't evict anybody and there's nothing we can do. There is something we can do. We just have to help our tenants get the assistance they need till they can get back on their feet and find new employment. Before we get started, the definition of eviction is the removal of a tenant by a property manager or a landlord. The idea is that somebody is in your property that isn't paying rent or is breaking the lease in some way, and you're seeking to get them out. If they're not upholding the lease, then it's time to remove them so that you can move to a tenant who's willing to keep the commitments that they've made. But the process of an eviction can take a different amount of time depending on where you live. The first thing you need to know is it's really state dependent. Depending on which state you live in, it could lengthen the process or it could really compress and shorten that process depending on how landlord friendly the laws are in the state you own property in. For example, in Atlanta, Georgia, one of the most booming multifamily markets and rental markets in the country right now, you can get a tenant evicted inside of 30 days. If you go to New York City, it might take 6 to 12 months because their landlord laws are really strict and their tenant laws are very favorable. Because this is the case, I'm very careful in where I invest in property. I'm really leery to invest in property where the laws are so strict against landlords that I can't remove a tenant if they're not paying rent. Because if they're not paying rent and that rent is part of the income in which I plan to run that business, then I all of a sudden don't have the income to run that business. I have to either cover those expenses or sell that property or go bankrupt. So for me, landlord laws are one of the key driving factors on if I invest in a specific area or not. So as you've seen, it's state dependent. So the point is, your duration will change based on where you own property. But is there any way to speed that up no matter where you live? And absolutely there is. The first thing you can do is start the eviction process early. Don't wait until 1 or 2 or 3 months have gone by that they haven't paid rent. Serve them an eviction paper very early in the process if they're unwilling to get the assistance needed to pay. For example, in our properties, we have a 3-day grace period. The 1st to the 3rd of every month, there is no late fees and there's no penalty for paying inside of those 3 days. Sometimes if the 1st lands on a Sunday and they want to bring their check over on Monday, we have no problem with that. The reason we give a 3-day grace period is it allows us the chance to get off of a weekend no matter when the 1st lands. But if they haven't paid by the 4th or the 5th or the 6th, they get notice immediately. Our property managers reach out to them right away and see what's going on and see why we haven't received rent. Based on why we haven't received rent, we respond. So first we say, okay, have you gotten assistance? Have you worked to get this problem resolved? If the answer is no, then say, are you willing to get it quickly? If the answer is no, we continue with the eviction process and say, okay, in the next 24 to 48 hours, just so you're aware, you'll be served papers in the eviction process and we'll start the process of removing you from the unit. The point is, get it started early speeds up the process. A lot of times, it's not the court system and law that lengthens the process, it's our timeliness. And it's the timeliness we apply to it that can shorten that time quickly by just simply getting on it early rather than waiting till the middle or the next month to start the process. In most states, a 10-day eviction notice needs to be served, meaning If this isn't fixed within 10 days, you will be served eviction papers. So it's almost like a pre-eviction notice. There's a notice that an eviction is coming if they don't rectify the problem in 10 days, and then at 10 days, they'll be served eviction papers. I like to serve that early 10-day notice as soon as possible and let them know in 10 days, if this is paid and this is rectified, you can throw this paper away and we move on as though this never happened. If it's not rectified, then we proceed with the eviction. But we get on that very quickly because, again, I don't want the process being drawn out because of me. I want the only thing holding the process back is the state and the laws that are against us as landlord. I want the only thing holding us back are the laws that are in place. So that way we can get on it early and we can work with the laws rather than when we finally get to serving the eviction papers, we still have a process to go through. Before I get into our next tip, comment below, have you ever done an eviction? And what's an eviction story you'd love to share with us? We love to hear stories from our listeners, and you might have a question. Maybe you're in the middle of an eviction, you want to know how to handle it. Throw it down below. We love to engage with you. The next thing to do is make sure you're keeping in touch with your property manager every step of the way. Keep getting updates all throughout the process so you know what's going on with your tenant and with the eviction. My property manager lets us know when we start, after papers are filed, and as the process is going on. And you want the same thing. Continue to connect with your property managers all the time so that you know what's going on with this eviction. But the truth of the matter is, it just keeps a little pressure on your property manager to keep the process moving quickly. And a lot of times, a property manager can actually get this done faster because a property manager wants to serve those papers ASAP so they're not chasing somebody that's never going to pay rent anyway. A lot of times, a great incentive to get that rent payment is when a renter receives an eviction notice, it kind of wakes them up that I better get this fixed or some undesirable stuff is coming my way. And our goal is to never move forward with an eviction. It's to rectify it and figure a way to figure it out and create a solution with our tenant. And the property manager's job is to create all these scenarios and create as best solution as possible for us and our tenant. A bonus tip for this entire process that can cut this in half is to hire an attorney that focuses on evictions. A lot of times attorneys will charge you anywhere from $200 to $800 to do an eviction, depending on where you're at in the country and what their fees are, but this can speed it along so much faster because attorneys know the laws, they know what need to be filed, they know when they need to be filed. A lot of times they have the paperwork and notices already created for you, and attorneys can cut this in half. I use attorneys for all our evictions. Even our property managers connect with attorneys and work with attorneys throughout the eviction process. So bringing an attorney on your team for the eviction process can cut that time in half. I want to give you a free gift for tuning in today. I want to give you my free multifamily masterclass. In the description, there's a link that if you click that link, you'll be taken to our free training that will walk you through the 5 things you need to do to get a piece of multifamily real estate in 71 days or less. Believe me, if you want to get a piece of multifamily, don't do it without this training. It will speed your learning curve up immensely. I'll see you in the training.